Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Gramling podcast. We are so glad that you're here today. We're really excited about episode 3 because we're going to talk about something that everybody is going through or has gone through. We're going to talk a little bit about the dangers of falling in love and dating and all that kind of fun stuff. The art of us. Now, I've got my co-host here, Stephanie.
Yes,
glad you're here today.
I am glad to be here.
Yes, and we talked about our relationship of 33 years
33
on episode 1. So check that out if you haven't already. And then we have a special couple of guests with us. We have, first of all, our youngest daughter. Well, our only daughter.
Yeah, youngest child.
Our
only
youngest
daughter.
child, our only single child.
Yes.
And since she is not married, Baylee Jade Gramling. Good to have you.
Hello, happy to be here.
That's it. Now, hey, let me ask you an important question. Which name do you like best, Baylee or Jade?
I think Jade.
Yes, because
There was a reason behind that question.
because all of our kids, Steph gave them their first names. I gave them the middle names.
I actually think I named her the
No.
full name. I
No,
think
you didn't.
I think
You
Baylee
didn't.
Jade was
No,
tiny too,
the only one you did was, I think you did both the Tylers.
okay.
Isn't it your fault that my name's spelt the way that it is, though?
I did
I don't think
do
a
that,
single
too.
person has ever spelt my name right.
Yeah, I had a different spelling for it than Dad.
You had
but
the normal.
He won out. No, I did not. Mine was different.
Well, anyways, we talk more about that on our episode 1.
Yes, we do.
But anyways, we are also joined by, well, Baylee, why don't you introduce who we have with us
Oh,
today?
okay. Well, we have my boyfriend, Larry Kenneth Duncan the third.
Wow. Larry Kenneth Duncan
Duncan.
Duncan.
the third.
The third.
That sounds so impressive.
Yeah.
It really does.
Sounds like royalty.
Yes, well, it's good to have both of you here. And, of course, we want to start of all. Tell us how long you guys have been dating.
We've been dating 8 months, almost 9 months. At the end of this month will be 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is this exact date, Baylee?
The 29th
Is
is 9 months.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, good deal.
I like it how you always looked at each other like, am I right on this?
He's better with
Like,
that than I am.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you both. And it's been a joy to get to know Larry as he's been hanging out for the last 9 months.
9 months,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
funny how that works. We didn't see a lot of Larry before those 9 months.
Yeah.
But Larry's on our worship team, of course, and now he's involved with the students. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's great and you guys met at church?
Yeah. We hung out after a she night.
Oh, she night.
Yeah.
That's our ladies ministry.
Yes.
For those of you listening at Potential Church, you can love for you to come and check that out. We have them all throughout the year.
Yeah.
And just go to potentialchurch.com for more information about that. But anyways, and the reason I said that is because you guys are not the only ones who met at church. So did Jessica and Carson, and so did Amber.
Tyler. And
Tyler.
Amber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody met at church except for Steph and myself.
Yeah.
We met on the
That's
side of the
right.
road.
Yeah. See,
But-
we set all of you guys
That's
up good.
promising.
Right?
Yes, they want to climb.
We did a good job.
Climb up on our shoulders. All right, so we've started all of our episodes with some different episodes. I mean, different articles. And today I have an article about falling in love. All right, and so I thought we'd look at the article, talk about it a little bit, maybe talk about some of the dangers when it comes to falling in love, and some of the things maybe you guys experience and are working through as a dating couple. And then we'll talk about the old people's perspective.
Yes. The old people.
All right. So here's the first thing that it says in the article is it says, talking again about the role, this is the role God will play in falling in love. But it says, God will empower you to move past infatuation towards real commitment when you truly begin to love someone. So it's talking about the difference between infatuation and commitment. So how would you describe the differences? In other words, what does infatuation look like as opposed to commitment or love or that kind of thing? So what do you guys think? What do you see as infatuation? When you hear that word, what comes to your mind?
I feel like, I mean, in my head, I would imagine the difference to be infatuation is a feeling, whereas love is a choice. So infatuation is kind of that like initial starting point, but it's not a substitute for love, because loving someone is choosing to love someone.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, no, that's very good, because I agree totally. How is infatuation, if we're going to move past it, if we just stay infatuated with one another, how is that dangerous?
Well, I think if you just stayed infatuated, infatuation will fade. In the same way that your feelings will change every
Right.
2 seconds. You know, you like French fries from Chick-fil-A one day, you like them from somewhere else the other day. So in
Yeah.
the same way, you may really like this person one day, and then the next day they did something wrong, they said something wrong, and now the infatuation is fade. Therefore,
Yeah.
everything else will fade, the whole relationship.
That's
good.
good. Yeah, and so many times then we're searching for the feeling as opposed to something that's more meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. The next thing they say is when you're truly falling in love, you'll find more joy in serving that person than being served by that person. So the question I was thinking of is, so what then does servanthood look like? And so, Steph, I ask you, first of all, in the context of marriage, what does it look? What does servanthood look like?
Yeah, I think, it's basically, putting your needs and desires before my own. It's not just thinking about myself, but, thinking, well, what would Troy like in this situation, or what, so it's really just, putting their needs above your own and serving them.
Now, I think you're a really good servant. What are some maybe particular? Is there any specific or particular things that come to your mind where you've chosen to serve?
I think it can be simple things, like it's, where you're not much of a cook. That's not, you have a lot of giftings, but cooking is not one of them. I often wonder how you, like, before we got together, like, how you survived.
I lived at home.
That's right.
And the
your
dorm.
mom.
And the
yeah.
dorm. So.
But I think it's simple things like, making your lunch for you, or, I think something kind of funny but recent is we decided we were going to go to the movie, I pick. And, I'm not a huge movie person, unless it's something like I really want to see. And, we talked in one of the episodes about how our what we like in TV shows and movies is very, very different, and we pretty much don't have that in common. But I love to go to iPick, where that's kind of my kind of movie, where you have the recliner and sit back and enjoy some popcorn. And well, we decided we were going to go, and I debated about asking you what movie you wanted to go see, because there were a couple that I thought, oh, these would be really good, but
Did I choose one of those?
You did not choose the movie. You probably chose my last choice. The last choice. It was a cartoon movie, and so I think but I served you.
So
in
tell
that
everybody,
way.
what was the movie we went and saw?
Puss in Boots.
We saw that too, actually.
Yeah, well,
It was a good movie.
So
It was.
good.
Larry fell asleep. He wouldn't know.
The last 15 minutes, I felt.
it wasn't a bad movie, but it's just not my first choice would not be a cartoon movie. Like, there were several other options.
So you
that
served me by coming
I
to
served you by going to the movie with you and seeing that cartoon.
Well, that
Yeah.
was good. I appreciate that. I did enjoy the movie.
Good.
So your
I'm glad.
servanthood wasn't in vain. All right. What about in the dating relationship? How do you see, what does servanthood look like?
I feel like because we're in that transition of we're dating, we're not married. So going from only having to think about myself to now there's another person there. And so I think we're very, very opposite in a lot of ways. So he's just a very big planner and stuff. So I think, and very organized. So for me, and I'm very not, I hate cleaning, I hate planning, I hate organizing. So I
Yes,
think
we
sometimes
know.
when he's, no, thank you for the input. I think sometimes when he gets overwhelmed or flustered, just helping him clean up his room or put some clothes away or, yeah.
Helping me clean
I
my
have.
room?
I have done that so many times.
Okay.
So many times. I just neglect my own.
So basically to do something that you normally wouldn't do
yeah.
Yeah.
because
of
you
my-
know that Larry would value that.
That's good.
And I think, when it comes to dating and falling in love, sometimes serving is more challenging I would say as the commitment grows, the ability or willingness to serve can become less.
Yeah.
Because there's greater commitment. You know, when you're first starting, you're trying to impress one another,
Yeah.
and you got all these things going on, and then the longer you date, right, you're more, well, she's
Confident
not going to leave
in
me.
a relationship. Yeah.
And then when you get married, and then, like us, you've been married for a while.
33 years.
I know how long. 33 years.
Just a while.
July the 15th, right? And
Yes.
and so it's easy sometimes to become maybe more selfish. And
Yeah.
and I think that's when people talk about falling out of love. Again, it's not that you feel different and act different. It's you act different, then you feel different.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true.
Because love truly is serving.
Yeah.
So what's one of the ways, Larry, that you serve Baylee in this dating relationship?
Well, I think it's similar with like the small things. I think it's having those conversations about things that could maybe help her. Like we had a conversation about the car, like getting in and out of the car. First, she told me, I would appreciate it if you, like, we had a conversation about this. Maybe don't open my door first, but go turn on the AC because we live in South Florida.
And it's hot.
And then I can get in the car. And then she saw somebody else open the car door for their girlfriend, and she goes, well, I mean, you could open my door. And so having those kind of did, but having those conversations of how, like, how can I serve you in those small things of opening your door, and the small things of, do you want me to grab your bag or whatever, those things that aren't benefiting me at all, is kind of the way that I can help serve her.
Well, that's good.
That is good.
Very good. And women can change their minds. I've discovered from time to time over the years.
Yeah, it's
I'm
shocking.
indecisive. I'll own it. I don't know what I want ever.
All right. The next one that they had an article is when you're falling in love with someone, you will fight through any issues that are trying to separate the two of you. So it's like what you guys were talking about at the beginning, the difference between infatuation and real love is that commitment, right? If it's just a feeling, you start to lose it, you're not going to fight through anything. So what do you guys think are some of the most important, this is the way I was thinking about it and jotted it down, is what are the most important discussions to have when you first start dating someone, and then, or before you start dating them, or once you get serious? So let's just start with once you start dating, what are some of the important discussions to have?
I think discussing the things that are important to you, like your priorities. Because for me, when we first started dating, that was really hard for me. I would kind of hold back if something bothered me, or if there was something that I really liked, or if there was, because I didn't want to like overshare too much and like scare him away. And so I think I think he's laughing because he knows it's true because we've thought about it. But yeah, so I think discussing like what's important to you and what matters to you, because it's different for everybody. So him knowing that is how he can better communicate to me, how he can better, deal with me. So
Yeah. I think also we had a bunch of those discussions and fights on what we value, what our plan is, and what we expect here in the relationship. Not to just walk into it like, oh, let's just see what happens. Like, like what are we trying to do here? Not just see where we end up, but
I told you he's a planner.
Yeah.
He cannot
I'm
do
seeing
that.
that.
I'm so very much like, let's just,
spontaneous and
yeah, he's just not.
But the good thing in that, the beauty in that is, they say opposites attract, and, you balance each other out. So, you learn to be more spontaneous and more planning, and he learns to maybe be a little more spontaneous, and, that's the beauty of it. Relationships.
Each other better.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So how is that in our relationship? How has that worked?
How does what work?
What you were just telling them.
Opposites.
Yeah, well, yes,
I mean-
your daughter is like you, and I would say I'm more like Larry. Like I'm, yeah.
We're the fun ones.
You can be very spontaneous and just off the cuff, and I am more of a planner. And, that used to drive me crazy, when you would come up and like all of a sudden like, oh, like, we have 2 kids. Baylee probably wasn't born then, but just like, oh, let's pack up and go so-and-so, and I'm like, wait, like there's planning that has to be done in this. Like, but the great thing about that is you've helped me over the years to become more spontaneous and to, be able to be more flexible.
And do you think I've become more organized?
You have, you have.
It pained her to say that.
We're still on a journey, but yeah,
kills
we
you to
have
admit
we
that.
have made progress.
Yes. No, and I think though, you know, in the early days, when you talk about what's important to discuss before you're or while you're dating, or before, you know, I think that, you know, we had a lot of those discussions, especially when it comes about spirituality and those kind of things. And then when it came to what our futures were going to be, you know, and working through that, because those things are, you know, because when you think about what you discuss when you first start dating as to when you become more serious, you know, and whether that takes, you know, 6 months and it's love at first sight, or whether that takes 12 months or 3 years or however long it takes, you know, those discussions change, but are still just as important.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think are some of the discussions that maybe you guys and even you see others, some of your friends, are most tempted not to have? It's kind of a difficult question, but maybe one that can help us.
Go ahead.
I'll start while you guys are thinking. You know, being in ministry as long as we have, I think, you know, of course, the number one discussion is, you know, should be, you know, as a believer, you know, is the person I'm in a relationship on that same journey, that same path? Are they a believer? And, you know, I think, you know, so many times that's where young people mess up, you know, is, and even thinking, even knowing what the Bible says about that, not being, you know, unequally yoked, but, you know, tend to think, you know, that, well, I can change them, you know, once we get married, then, you know, it'll all fall in line and it'll all work out. And, you know, as we know, oftentimes that's not how it works. Oftentimes it's, you know, where the unbeliever pulls the believer away. So I think, you know, that's a very important first question. You know, you want to start there.
And everybody loses. And, you know, when you don't talk about the things that you say you value the most.
Right.
And because thinking that I can get you to value something that I value without talking about it is where, like, exactly what you're talking about. And everybody loses in that. You know, nobody really wins, because even if I convince you to change your values, then you're going to resent that. You know, and it just, nobody wins. Those relationships just tend not to last. And, you know, broken relationships are painful. And that's when we talk about what's the dangers of dating. You know, it's dating someone that you end up marrying and maybe even having children with, and then it doesn't last, and there's all this brokenness and pain. So let me ask some questions, all right? How do you know when you're falling in love with the right person? Do you know?
I mean, I've never believed that there's like this one person that you're meant to be with in the entire world. I just feel like there's not a lot of like realistic thoughts going on there. But I do think that like for instance with him, I didn't realize that two people could balance each other out so well until I started dating him, and I was like, oh, this just, not that everything is easy, because we've had plenty of fights, but disagreements. Yeah. Discussions, productive discussions. But it's almost like there's not like this heavy weight of like, are things gonna be broken, or like it doesn't feel fragile. Like there's like a foundation of like, I know that the important things we're on the same page with, as far as where we're going in the relationship, as far as our journey with God and all of that, like all of the important stuff in order to have that firm foundation is there. And so when there's like disagreements, discussions, whatever, I don't feel like not confident in our relationship being able to last. So I feel like for me, that was like just feeling a sense of security in the relationship was kind of how I knew.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's really good. Yeah. Lots of wisdom.
Oh, thanks.
You know, when you think about that stuff, what comes to your mind? I mean, if you can think back to
a long time
the
ago.
beginning.
I think he just called you old.
Yes. No. What made our relationship different from the other relationships that you have been in?
Yeah, I think for me, you know, it's I was just right away, I was drawn to and attracted to just your your humility, and you were this big basketball player. You were known all over the state, really. I mean, you were a great basketball player, and in that world of athletics, it could have been very easy for you to go along with the crowd, or to not necessarily live out your faith in front of them. And I just remember being blown away when we started dating, and and I really got to know who you are. And you were very strong in your faith, and all of the basketball players, whether in junior high, high school, college, they all knew where you stood, and you witnessed to them. I mean, you lived out your faith in front of them, and that was so attractive to me. You didn't try to pretend, or it's like, this is who I am. This is part of my life, and this is what I do. And that was very, very attractive. And,
Well, and I do think, because when you talk about falling in love with the right person, it's so important to be able, what does that look like beyond infatuation or lust, or, what is it built on? Why can I commit to you? What is it about you that I can commit to? What is it that you can commit to me, so that we can be in love, for 33 years, and many, 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 many more.
Many, many more.
And,
lots more
in the future. Here's another question that one of our listeners sent us: is, do you believe it's important to heal from past hurt before falling in love again?
Yeah, 100%. I think there were a lot of discussions that Baylee and I had early on, because we expected the other person to react like a previous relationship did. And so without going through that journey of getting healing from a past relationship, you're now expecting and putting what that past person did, or how you reacted with them, you're now doing it with the person you're currently with. And so I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think starting that journey of healing, but I feel like sometimes, like, to kind of wrap it up, or like get full healing, I feel like that started even once you get into a good, safe relationship, because you don't realize like really how bad it was, or you don't realize like how good it could be until you get into a relationship, and you're like, oh, okay. Like it almost like gives that closure of healing.
Yeah. Well, and I think about it as, you never want to carry baggage, into the relationship, past baggage. Like Larry, like you were saying, it's not fair to the other person to think that they're going to respond, or they're going to do what, in a past relationship. So, I think for sure you want to, work through that, and so that you can go into the new relationship healthy, and it can be growing and thriving, and not trying to work through those things as you're trying to get to know this other person. I think that can be very destructive.
Second, I'm sorry about that to all our listeners out there. I hope you're wearing headphones. But second marriages, the percentage of divorce goes up for second marriages, and then they go up more for third marriages. And it's not because you'd think the second time, man, I'm going to do it better. But the tendency is we take the same issues compounded because of the brokenness into that next relationship. And that's where, again, I just encourage everybody that don't be afraid to work through past hurt. It's very easy, how, you okay? I'm okay, and just move on. And it's important, to allow people into our lives to be vulnerable enough to help us. And we need people who can hold us accountable. We need people who can give us wisdom and insight. And again, I just encourage all of our listeners, we live in a world where, whether it's YouTube or whether it's Apple Podcasts, there's so many places to hear so many different voices, and you have to be discerning, because not everybody is wise. but it's important to be humble enough to learn from the people around us and people that are unlike us. So, you know, people that are younger and people that are older and people that have had different experiences than us. And because in the past you'd had to read a book, go to a conference, you know, spend money, travel. And today, so much of that is free. And then to intentionally do that offline, you know, in real relationships, you know, friendships at work and school and those kind of things.
Yeah.
So just encourage everybody to do that. Well, here's I thought was an interesting question is how can you determine, if you can, when you're ready to fall in love?
A deep question.
It's a
huh?
very deep question.
How can you determine when you're ready to fall in love? And maybe the reality is just the beginnings of love, the feelings of love. You know, you're really not in control of those.
Right.
I mean, you are in the sense that if I'm not around anybody, I'm not going to fall in love. But you know, if you're going to date, you know, I've always said you can fall in love with the wrong person.
Right.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad person or an evil person. Every broken relationship's not because somebody's evil.
Right. Yeah, I'll jump in here. I think, you know, thinking back to our relationship and all, I think it's, you know, it's a big part of it is maybe not necessarily like chasing that, you know, just work on becoming who God created you to be, the best version of yourself, so that and then allow God to bring that person into your life. And, you know, when he does, then you're ready. You're ready to be that great girlfriend, that great spouse. So, you know, you oftentimes see people and they're just like chasing it, you know, and it's like oftentimes it doesn't work out. So it's like, you know, just work on all the things that you need to work on so that, you know, and allow God to bring that person into your life. And, you know, and therefore, like I said, you'll be ready when he does that.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, I saw Steph. I didn't share this, I think, in episode 1 when we talked about how we met. But the first time I saw Steph was in a beauty contest, Miss Greene County.
Yes.
And she actually won it. And, but I didn't meet her for months.
You are in the room with the former Miss Greene County.
Yes.
Just so you know.
What an honor.
Yes. She had a lot of Miss titles, but now she's a Mrs. But
Yeah.
anyway, I forgot. I was going to say something very important, and I forgot what it was.
I'm sure it was really good.
I'm sure it was, but I'll come to it on the next episode, so make sure that you stay tuned. All right, I thought we'd end with just a couple of questions, especially for you guys, because a lot of folks, you know, dating gets crazy in the world in which we live with online and all those kind of things. But first of all, what role has spirituality played in your dating relationship?
I mean, I think the most important role, I think it's like anytime we feel lost or kind of like misaligned or having argument, like it all goes back to that. You know what I mean? It's like, how often have we been praying together? How often have we been doing our devotionals together? How often, like, and usually when you look back to that, like at the root of it, that's where you can kind of see how things started to, you know, take a turn or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like anytime I'm starting to have bad days, it's because I look back and I can see why that started to happen. Yeah. So I think for us, it's the soul center of everything, every conversation, sure. every decision and everything.
Yeah. That's really good.
So as you get closer to God, you actually get
that's the thing that actually got us, I think, the most attracted to each other was, you know, you're looking around in a dating pool and you're looking for someone who has the same kind of values as you. And I think, one of the things that attracted me towards you was your commitment to God and to everything. Like I was like, wow, like there is someone that's like going at this like 100% with their heart and with everything they have. And that's one of the things that our relationship is based on. Yeah. When the bad days are coming, like when one of us is having a bad day or a bad couple of days or we're fighting a lot, we can normally trace it back to, okay, well, where has our focus been? Has it been 100% each other? Because that's normally when it'll happen, is we turn our focus away from God and towards each other. And then we have to realign that. And then the more we pursue our callings and go towards it, it normally brings us closer.
Yeah.
Well, that's some great advice for all of us really to apply to our lives, not just if we're dating, but in whatever relationship we find ourselves in. I do want to thank you guys so much for being a part of the Troy Gramling podcast today as we continue to talk about the art of us. Love, it's beautiful, and it's one of those things we want to grow, not destroy. So continue to follow us, subscribe, and we'll catch you next week in the next episode. We'll see you then.